Just when you think the ACC can't get a little more complicated, it decides to kowtow to the SEC and the Big 10. We'll talk about the dealings, the wheelings, and the dealings that came out of conversations around the college football playoff. We'll also discuss Kenny Payne being out at Louisville. We didn't think it would take this long, but here we are. And we'll give you a little tourney recap. How about it? Here on today's episode of Locked on ACC.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. If you're new here, if you're true here, we're certainly glad to have you. Make sure you download, subscribe to the pod from anywhere that you listen. Also, if you want to get on our YouTube page, hit that subscribe button. We are so close to 2,000 that it hurts me that you haven't told your friends yet to come and join the fun. So get down with the get down, and please subscribe to the channel, share it with all your friends, and let's get into it. So much to go over on today's show. Kenton is going to try and be as polite as possible, but we all know how this may go. Now, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them out all out today at nissanusa.com. Kenton, be nice. That's all I'm asking. Be nice.
This is what I got. And for those of you who are listening and not watching, it's a sign begging Jimmy P, also known as Jim Phillips, to please stop folding. The man is folding like origami. He's folding like clean clothes. As a matter of fact, I have a stack of folded towels right behind me. This man is folding in a way. He's folding in a way that is not only detrimental to the case against Florida State, but it's detrimental to any case to keep any semblance of this conference around anywhere near the end of the grant of rights. Because I think as we get closer to the end and more teams can buy out, it's more feasible. Some of these teams may be willing to jump ship with no place to go just to get away from this nonsense.
For sure. So Ross Dellinger broke news from On3 Sports. Let's talk about what actually went down, Kenton, and to share why we're so frustrated.
For sure. So what we're so frustrated and upset about today is that Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports said had this to drop today. The ACC and Big 12 presidents have approved the new college football playoff network. The new college football playoff framework. Mm-hmm. The SEC and Big 10 would combine to share around 58% of CFP distribution, while 32% goes to the ACC and Big 12.
And I'm just praying that this is not true. Like, I genuinely am praying that this is not true, because there's just no way that you said yes to this willingly. Like, blink twice if you're in trouble, Jimmy P. There's just no way that you've agreed, after fighting so tooth and nail to tell us how great our conference is, to then, come down and say, hey, we'll take literally less than half of the profits and split it with our good friends at the Big 12. That just didn't happen.
Somebody needs to get Kirk Cousins' agent on the phone.
Hello.
Somebody needs to get his agent on the phone. Because one thing about old Kirko is he walks in that negotiating room. His agent walks in there with the confidence and balls of a 4-time Super Bowl winner, 5-time MVP, do it all guy. Meanwhile, we've got our representatives, whoever is walking in the courtroom for the ACC, whoever is walking into negotiations for the ACC right now, they walk. They're going by the old FDR quote, but they're forgetting the second half of it. It was walk lightly, but carry a big stick. Instead, we're walking lightly and carrying no stick.
Twigs.
Being very timid. A Twix, if you will. A twist, if you will. You know why? Because we sweet right now. We look real sweet compared to the other conferences. And this is the Big 12 too. They're including this. They're not exempt from this nonsense, because agreeing to this deal, I am almost in awe of how you as a conference commissioner could agree to such a thing.
But my biggest thing is like, one, why would you not try and merge with the Big 12, right? And like be a super conference. Two, why would you give in no matter what, tooth to nail, be in those boardrooms for however long you need to be in to ensure that your conference received equitable profits? And beyond that, you're already battling one of your biggest brands in the conference that you have fighting to leave. But now you're telling them, I'm not even going to try hard to get you revenue share that is worth your time. Silly.
Yeah, and this is exactly why I'm sitting up here looking at Jim Phillips and saying, please stop folding in this way. This man is folding like a fresh, dry clean suit with the extra starch on it. This is looking crazy. This reminds me a lot of the Ice Cube diss track that he wrote towards his former compatriots in the NWA, No Vaseline, because what are you doing, Jim? What are you doing? I get that the idea is, well, if we don't take these scraps, we'll get nothing. But fight, claw, scrap, tooth, and nail to say, listen, I reject this. Y'all need to come back with something that's a little bit more equitable. Y'all ain't even get 60-40. Y'all ain't even. I would say I'm disappointed. But it's a, as the children say today, I'm disappointed, but not surprised. Because once again, we don't have anybody fighting for us. We don't have anybody as a conference that is going out and saying, you know what? I get where you're going. In the words of Gloria Hallelujah, he had the right game. He just picked the wrong one. That's what you need to say to the NCAA when they come at you with that type of nonsense.
Sure. But I also think, right, to your point, we don't have anybody fighting for us. It's very clear that Jimmy P, we've tried to, go to bat for you. We've tried to, advocate for you, but it's very clear that you are a guppy in a shark-filled tank. Like, you just don't know how to handle these difficult waters, right? This is not Northwestern, Buki. This is an entire conference, and you're playing, and you lost bad. And you're going to get up here come July and tell us just how great our conference is, just how scholastically excellent we are. Scholarships are cool. Money, like, being a scholar and all that's great. Unity Week, all that stuff. All the good, heartfelt lamb chop type is great. Where the money at? Well, show me the money. Show me what you're doing. Year after year, we've asked you for expansion. Not really worth our time. I'm not gonna hold you. Love you, SMU. Love you, Cal. Think you're great additions. Fine, sure. Stanford, fine. But where is the moolah, baby? And I don't see it.
And a lot of people know me for asking some very interesting questions at the ACC Media Week, and you better believe, you bet your bottom dollar that one of my first questions is going to be, what about this deal seemed equitable enough for the ACC to be involved in and meaningfully agree to? What was the alternative?
I make sure that you are asking save this spiciness for just Jimmy P, right? Because you know how sometimes that guy doesn't like to call on you when you get a little out of order. So just make sure that you giving that smoke to the man. Just so we're on the same page. I just want to make sure.
I'm gonna just say this: Jimmy P is going up first. So before they even
that could be your last. That could be your last. They could excuse you. Okay.
Hey. And if I get excused for fighting for our teams, damn it, at least somebody did it. At least somebody did some pressing. Because I'm gonna tell you something, okay? I'm not saying that I grew up in the Bob Huggins old school, but all I'm saying is it's Press Virginia when we talk about the moolah. It's Press Virginia, baby. You got to be about your Skrilla, your greenbacks, the ducats, and it don't seem like we bought. It don't seem like we bought it right now.
Oh, tell it to the choir, because I think we preaching good here today. All right, this week's March Madness bracket, it's a highlight, is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest. Just like all of the new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. The Houston Cougars can only be described as an armada. This top-seeded team is as hardcore as hardcore as it gets out there. So it's no wonder they're expected to land as a top seed in the tournament after their first season in the Big 12. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, Kenton, we could spend all year on the ACC and its silliness, but we also have to talk about some other silliness that we've been waiting quite some time now to discuss. Kenny Payne is out at Louisville. Okay. It's been a long time coming. We didn't think he'd make it past year one. They gave him year two. Wasn't much improvement from year one to year two. Won a total of 3 ACC games, conference games, and you got not blown out in the tournament, but you lost to an NC State team that hasn't exactly had the world's best year. Here you are finding yourself out of a job after just 2 seasons, a lot of ups and downs and flows. Former player, you would think it would be sort of that riding of the ship, trying to make things better and bring the program back to what it was, and yet we have him finding himself a new home, new church home. Eventually,
I think the biggest problem here is that Kenny Payne was woefully underprepared for this role, and that's the reason.
From a skill set as a coach, he was not prepared to be a head coach in a Power 5 program, or what would you think?
I mean, I think that's it. I think that he wasn't ready on any level, and I think beyond that, the biggest thing here that I see that I'm like, all right, this is what he's lacking that most head coaches have if they're going to be winners, if they're going to do these types of things. He had that old school mentality, that not necessarily players coach, mentality. And if you're going to do that, you need to show results right away. If you don't show improve right away in doing that, you're not going to have success. And also, I think the biggest thing, no head coaching experience before this in terms of college basketball, not a lick. No college, no pro, no nothing in terms of head coaching experience. And then he comes in here and becomes the head coach right away.
In over his head.
Yeah.
I think people woefully underestimate all that comes with being a head coach. It's not just X's and O's. In fact, most of the time than not, it's less of the X's and O's and more about the paperwork, the babies, dealing with egos and trying to be a real captain and delegate accordingly. So sometimes that comes with a lot of angst and frustration because you want things to go a certain way. You want people to have a certain following to your discipline and all the things. And that just didn't feel like that was happening for Louisville.
Absolutely. And I hate to compare them to their rivals right down the street in Kentucky, but I mean, you look at what Coach Cal does, and it's not really, like you said, it's not about the X's and O's with Cal. I've never heard anybody say Cal is a tactician like no other on the court. Right. He wins in the living room. Anytime you see pictures of Coach Cal with players or recruits, families and all that, he's kissing babies, he becomes ingratiated in their families. You never really got that feel with right. Coach Payne here as a member of Louisville. And, it's at the end of the day, this is a team that not too long ago, you and I remember Peyton Siva and those teams going to Elite Eights and Final Fours and all those things. We remember that, right? We remember, listen, Rick Pitino said bands will make her dance, but bands also get us to the tournament. You understand? He was going to do it, okay? He was going to do it. He was going to get you into that dance. And here's the thing, more than anything else. Again, I tell people all the time, the good book says love covers over a multitude of sins. In sports, winning covers over even more. It does not matter what you do, how you do it, or who you're doing it with. If you're a winner, I guarantee you, somebody's going to pick you up. The problem is, Kenny Payne, for as clean of a program as he's run, kudos to him. That clean program ain't won a lick of nothing.
And now you also have to think about, after the Chris Mack era, you didn't exactly have all the scholarships. You didn't exactly have all of the top recruits wanting to, rush to Louisville, Kentucky, especially when you have Kentucky down the street, especially when you have like the ACC would have some heavy hitters, right? So the recruiting trail definitely had to be difficult for him and his assistants. However, you are absolutely right. At the end of the day, it's all about the W's, right? And it was not even just it's not even that they were losing. It was how they were losing. It was embarrassingly bad sometimes. Right. Yeah. It was like, it's almost like people are feeding you, lobbing you W's, and you can't seem to handle it. So I think that's also what contributed to his exit. And there wasn't any sort of like promise or sort of, high hopes that things would change. And some of his top players, transferred. That also makes you frustrated. So I think overall, not a great fit. Be interested to see how they play this out if they keep some of their assistants. Former, Duke great Nolan Smith was on that roster in terms of being an assistant coach. Will he take over? His dad played there. Like, what are they going to do in terms of change, do you feel like?
Nolan probably don't want to be associated with that. He don't want to, he's Ixnay, I'm using my name in that. But in all seriousness, I'm going to just say this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This team saw the worst, or not this team in particular, but this coaching staff oversaw the worst year in modern Louisville basketball history.
Yeah.
And then you come back the year after that and you win a couple more games. Scorch earth.
Okay.
Start anew. The cupboards are indeed barren for what you expect out of Louisville, but that's okay. Don't you leave none of that residue of that old funk, of that old miserableness, of that all the terribleness that was Louisville basketball these last couple of years, with all due respect, listen, he's highly respected in the ACC, highly respected. And I'm not just talking about as a player. I'm talking about as a young man, that he is highly respected.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you leave a inch nor quarter of what was there before to your next staff. Mm-mm.
Heard you loud and clear. So clean slate, fresh group, everybody out.
Roundhouse those release papers like Oprah used to do with a car. You get your pink slate. You get a walking paper. You get your walking paper. You get your walking paper. Pay everybody. I don't want to see none of y'all no more.
And that's tough because, the kids are going to have to try and transfer, figure out what's next. You also have coaches you got to pay out. So it's a lot to deal and a lot to unpack. And it's unfortunate, the timing of it. But at least, hopefully next season they'll come back fresh and renewed and, try to make the case for just being sort of competitive, because everyone had a W on their slate for the Louisville matchups. Of course, they got some in, but it was certainly just not a good thing. But let's close this chapter and focus on anew, because there is a lot going on here in the ACC, so we don't want you guys to miss a single bit of it. But first, I want to remind you guys about our friends at Amazon Fire TV. Now, we all know that with Amazon Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire Stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. Check out Fire TV channels and Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. And as we're talking through our friends at eBay Motor, we know that passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because eBay Motors is your burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Say eligible items only 4 times fast. See if you can do it, but you can't. All right. ACC Tournament. I talked about the Louisville getting the boots. NC State picking up the win. How do you feel about that one, Kenton? Bid still on the way.
Yeah. I was called everything but a good Christian by many members of Wolfpack Nation for saying that Louisville could upset that team. And at halftime, Louisville led. I apologize for nothing.
True. Notre Dame had picked up their win against Georgia Tech, but unfortunately lost to Wake Forest today. Boston College picked up their win, but they are in cahoots to play with Clemson this evening as we're recording this show. NC State and Syracuse will face off as well, so we haven't seen those. But Florida State beat Virginia Tech. They'll move on and face North Carolina at noon on Thursday. And then you have Wake Forest moving on as well, and they'll face Pitt.
Yeah, I'm looking at a bunch of very interesting matchups here. And I don't know what it is about NC State losing to teams that wear orange 3 times in a season, but hopefully they can break that streak, because last year Clemson put the beats on them boys 3 times. Hopefully they can do a little better to keep Judah Mintz off the foul line and make something positive happen there. And in this Boston College game, I'm very intrigued from the standpoint of, obviously Boston College, Clemson, you're expecting Clemson to come out and dominate this thing and get it done. However, can Post do enough offensively against PJ Hall? I doubt it. I highly doubt it, especially since it's rare for anybody to come along with Post. I really how many times
PJ Hall has Shefflin, so that sort of helps him.
He has Shefflin, he has Gerard, there are multiple players that are going to show up for him that, with Post, it's just like, hey, you're the guy. We're going to get it to you. Hey, coach, I want to kick it out to somebody to space the floor. No, you're the guy. Make it work. So, I very seriously, I asked myself, can BC pull off this upset? I think not. Can NC State pull off this upset? Also thinking not. But we'll see. We'll see, because so far it's been a very chalk tournament for the ACC men's side.
100% agree there. All right. As we're looking towards, the future, Virginia still has to play. North Carolina still has to play. Duke still has to play. There's a lot of still ahead. How do you avoid, coming out sleepy and slow against teams that are a little bit beat up, banged up? They're in the tournament fighting for that stealing bid option. How do you come out with a mentality of it's pretty much how we do here around the conference? You've got to wake up and be ready to play, because on any given night, any team can get it.
Well, you got to understand that your seeding is vital in terms of where you end up and how that can, what that can do for you by ending up on the, for North Carolina, let's say they dominate this thing and end up on the 3, maybe even, I know I'm getting a little crazy here, maybe the 2 seed line, right? If you're North Carolina, you could do that. Or you could come out, be sleepy, and end up on the 3, maybe 4 seed line. Yeah. Where do you see your better matchups? Where do you see teams that you are going to have a better outlook against? And that's the type of thing that you need to say there. But even more importantly than that, I think it's important to remind your players this is still the ACC.
Yeah.
Forget bracketology. Forget Joe Lunardi. Forget all the people that are constantly talking about what this conference is or is not. Last time I checked, Georgia Tech has wins over Duke and UNC this year.
Come on.
Last time I checked, that lowly NC State team got a win over Virginia this year.
And did.
Last time I checked, every team in the conference right now, we don't have one that's undefeated in the conference. And I'm pretty sure of all the teams that have lost games in the conference, all of our top 4 seeds, I'm pretty sure all of them have lost to unranked teams. So if I'm a coach, I'm saying, I don't know where y'all would get the idea that we could sleepwalk and break dance through a game from. I don't know where y'all are getting that idea from, baby. Not a single one of us. None of us are world beaters to the level of we can puff our chest out and say, oh, we can show up when we feel like it. Everything's going to be. No. Wake up. Hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Bury the inferior team and let that be that.
And I think for a Duke team, you're fighting for a potential, 3 or 4 seed. If you're North Carolina, you're fighting for a 2 or 1 seed, depending on how far you get in this tournament. So there's a lot of implications. If Clemson, you're fighting for your life, right? Wake Forest, you're fighting for your life. So there's a lot, to be said about getting some W's out of this bad boy and making it look good. So there is a lot of game left.
Absolutely. And like you said, each of these teams has their own different little motivations. Because you talk about Virginia, do you want to be one of those 4 teams playing on the first day of the NCAA tournament?
Child.
Is that what you want for yourself? Clemson.
That ain't always been a good testimony for you now, but okay.
Clemson, you better fight, scrap, and claw if you want to sniff the tournament. Duke and UNC. If I'm Duke, don't you want that 3rd battle of the Blues? Don't you want a chance for some get back? Don't you want a chance? If I'm UNC, 1 banner ain't enough. Regular season ain't enough. I want the ACC too.
Right.
I'm UNC. I believe that I am inherently and divinely better than all of you. So I am going to have to show it Every team got their little things.
I'm gonna cut that clip. Just
listen, you can leave it. You can leave it. You can cut it. You know what I mean? Don't ever
put that on Twitter.
See. Don't you do that. Don't you do that.
Anytime you get crazy, I'm going, I am UNC. Oh, gay. Heard you.
I've told everybody that UNC basketball, hands down above NC State basketball. I've owned that. I've admitted that. I've made no bones about that. They're a preeminent basketball school in the ACC. I give them that.
I love that for me. Okay, great. Well, I can leave this episode happy, refreshed, and reprieved. We started out a little hot, a little angry, a little frustrated.
I'm still hot and angry, damn it. I'm still hot and angry. See, you see how Candace doing? Like she said, those Ken's opinions, these are Candace's opinions on this episode, talking about we refreshed and reprieved at this point. That's Candace. But I'm going to let you go ahead and cook up the outro.
The ACC is quite frustrating, but all we can do is our best to report the news to these people. So if you have not yet followed, if you have not yet subscribed, you're doing yourself a disservice. We have fun over here. So make sure you do just that. Hit us up anytime. We know this one is going to be very, very, very wild. We know the comments are going to be crazy. Be kind to us. Just know that Jimmy P doesn't in fact pay us. Okay. So for Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs, we'll see you next time.
You are Locked On ACC.
God knows.